The impression the game you get out of it, what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Sheahy. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Keogh. Kerry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello and you're very welcome to episode number 278 of Treaty Talk. Tom Clancy here as ever and joined once again, I think for the hat-trick now, by John Keogh, freelance sports reporter and broadcaster. John, how's life? How's things with you?
All good, Tom. Now yourself?
Not too bad. No, not too bad. Sure, we can't complain after another busy week and another huge week in Limerick Gaelic games. We were in Ennis. We'll get to that in detail, I suppose, as the show goes on. But a memorable afternoon over against our neighbours in Clare.
It was, Tom. Yeah, the setting was fantastic. We had beautiful weather in Ennis. It was just old style Munster Championship in a way. Beautiful summer in April is what we had the weekend. Yeah, look, it was a great occasion. Packed house in Keogh Park as well, which just, you know, the atmosphere was sensational. The game itself probably didn't live up to the standards and you know, of recent years between Limerick and Clare maybe, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, as in all in all, with being Limerick people that we are, we were fairly happy with the result and maybe not overly happy with how it came about in the end. But look, all that matters is Limerick won from their point of view and our point of view as well. So happy days and roll on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be getting stuck into the teeth of that shortly. We'll also look at the 20s, the 17s and the hurling front, and we'll look at the ladies football as well later in the piece. But we'll start this week with Camogie. There's obviously a big game to come. We'll be joined by Limerick Camogie manager Joe Quaid in a couple of minutes. But before the talk of the senior game, which is against Waterford, the curtain raiser, we'll say, on Sunday afternoon, a look back at the minors. John, the minor side went to the rag. It was actually at the same time as the Limerick senior hurling game, so it probably fell under the radar for a lot of people. But an unfortunate 1-goal defeat to Dublin for Paul Neenan and Tony Dunn's young side. They've had a great run, a great year last year, getting to the final, just falling one hurdle short of repeating that this year. But disappointment to lose out to Dublin in the rag. Yeah,
very, very disappointing for Paul and Tony, Tom. It's, you know, a grade. We mentioned it last week, you know, that Limerick have been improving at in Camogie, and starting with that 16s win last year, that has been followed up with another Munster win this year for both the A's and the B's. And that Camogie team reaching the All-Ireland B final last year, and then one step away this year again. You know, a very tight game. As you know, reading up on the game, it appeared a very tight game throughout, with Dublin just edging it by that narrow margin. But look, again, lots to take. These grades are all about preparing players for junior and senior Camogie. And Pauline and Tony Dunn have done that in spades in the last 2 years, with so many players having already made that jump up to junior and senior. So positives. Unfortunately, not reaching another All-Ireland final. They'll look at it maybe with a bit of tinged with disappointment. But they look that they're not done for the year. I'm fairly sure they have a Munster Championship to come up against as well later in the year. So look, as much as that one is smarting now for them, I'm sure, but there's plenty still to play for.
Yeah, it's a development age group. I always stress that about minor, whether it's football, camogie, hurling, ladies football. So I'm sure they've got plenty. They've had a lot of games. I think that's their 4th championship game in the last maybe 6 or 7 weeks. So plenty to be positive about there. There's already players, as we've seen, progressing to the junior ranks, and in turn we'll probably see some in the senior ranks in time. So it's onwards and upwards. Obviously, we'd love to see a bit more silverware at minor level, but it's not all about that. It is about bringing players on and getting them used to inter-county action.
Oh, absolutely, Tom. That's what it's all about, really. You know, you want silverware at every grade. You want to be winning every game, every competition. But the old adage goes, sometimes you learn more from your defeats than you do from your wins. And you know, the girls will hold on to that hurt, I'm sure, going forward for the rest of the year, but both with county and club. You know, they won't want to taste that feeling again. So But from a developmental point of view, it's crucial. You know, you've already mentioned, Niamh, as well, the key goal for these teams at underage levels to progress to adult ages with inter-county teams, whether that be junior and if possible up to senior as well. So that will always remain the ultimate goal, and that's where Limerick have to start from. So that's 16s crop from last year. Some of them came through to minor, some of them were 16s again this year, and you know, following on, and some of last year's team already making the jump to junior and senior just shows that progression and that elevator to success is there for these players that represent Limerick at the underage groups. And just the important thing for them is to stay at it, learn from those defeats, as you said as well, and you know, what can we do to improve. And that's always pivotal from a collective and individual point of view. And I've no doubt that the girls, a serious group of talented players that they are, will do exactly that.
Yeah, and just to recap on the game itself, Limerick did manage 2 goals. They were from Ciara Curtin and Emer O'Donovan, and also Poppy Giltanan chipping in with 5 points for Limerick. So some of the names we will expect to see in the years to come in the green of Limerick. We'll be joined by Joe Quaid very shortly, as I said, but just to mention as well that the Limerick Camogie Féile winners over the weekend, that went off to a T, absolutely brilliantly run competitions by all accounts, with venues to be sorted overnight effectively for the latter stages of it. Grana Ballingarry, congratulations to them. They won the Féile A title, and Ballybrown, as well as me, John, collecting their split the bucket prize money during the week. They also won the Féile competition. So great week. We're all connected there. So
great week for Ballybrown.
Congratulations to Grana Ballingarry and indeed Ballybrown on their Camogie Féile wins, and they're progressing now towards the national competition. As I said, Joe Quaid will be with us very. Now, we're delighted to be joined by Limerick Senior Camogie Manager Joe Quaid. Joe, how's all with you? How's life at the moment?
All good now. Looking forward to Sunday. Huge day for both myself and the girls. It's great to be managing a senior team in the Gaelic Grounds, and a special privilege to be managing it before the senior boys are going out.
Yeah, it's a 2 p.m. start on Sunday. Waterford are the opponents. Before we talk about that match, I spoke to you at a league game in Kilmallock at the start of the year. And look, I'm not trying to land you in it by any means, but it's something that I've been conscious of for a long time now. And look, I don't get to every Camogie game myself to cover them or to support them, but there was not a lot of people there that day. That's done. But you'll be hoping, obviously, for people to turn up early on Saturday. There is only 2 hours between throw-ins in the game. You know, people aren't going to be waiting around for long between games. You're hoping that people will get to the Gaelic Grounds early. The weather should hopefully hold up and be good. These ladies will need that extra push because obviously Waterford are a formidable side. So you'd be obviously encouraging the public to get out.
Yeah, look, I suppose I've a huge bee in my bonnet about this women in sport thing. I'm a huge advocate of it. But until women start supporting women in sport, I think it's a mute argument at the moment. Like, you'll probably have 45,000, 40,000+ people in the Gaelic Grounds. There'll probably be 20,000 of them women, 10,000 of them women from Limerick. Why isn't there 10,000 women from Limerick inside supporting the girls at the start of their match on Sunday? That's the question I'd be asking. But look, for once, the Camogie and the GA have got it right. They've actually had a double header as a proper double header with 1 at 2 and 1 at 4, as opposed to the token gesture double headers they've had in the past. With, if you're the senior match on at 4, you could have your Camogie match on at 12:30. So at least they're giving it the proper billing it should. But look, we're under no illusions. You go on last year's form, you're talking about a team that got to the All-Ireland Senior Camogie final versus a team that had to win the relegation match to stay up senior. So we're in no doubt of the size of the task ahead of us, but at the same time, these girls won't be found wanting.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously last year's troubles for the side. You were obviously not involved last year, but what attracted you to come back to the role? You've obviously had it before. It's you know, some people might have said, well, that team isn't capable of much, but you obviously decided that it was worth taking on. So what was the attractiveness to you in the off season?
There was absolutely none. I went in to meet the county board to tell them. They asked me would I meet Marion Quinn, would I meet her to have a chat, and out of courtesy, I was going in to tell her thanks for that, and I'd come face to face and just tell her no thanks after 2 hours talking to her, and we kind of shared the same vision for it, and I just felt confident that she was going to honour her word the same as I'd honour mine, and they'd give them the equal billing. To be fair, the one thing I asked for was that they would have equal access to everything that the hurlers had. And having access to something doesn't mean it's expensive. Like there's a myth out there that there's someone at the gates of Rackeel or the Gaelic Grounds printing out euro notes, flying them around the place every night when the hurlers are there. They're not. We've trained this year in Fit 100, where the senior hurlers train for their gym work. We've trained in Newell, where the senior hurlers train at times. We are now out in McNeville and Grass, where the senior hurlers train. It doesn't cost a whole pile, but to give the girls that privilege and access to physios, which they've got, access to mindset coaches, which they've got, access to gyms and all that, that doesn't cost a whole pile. But having the structures in place that they have access to when needed is a huge plus. And I said that to Marion, and she agreed that that's the way we needed to go. And I won't use the words online that I used when I stood up from the meeting. The second one was you. And she said, what? And I said, all right. I said, I'll have a go at this again. And to be fair, it's been the best decision I have made in my managerial career so far, coming back to these girls, because after the Wexford last round of the game against Wexford in McNeville, I walked out and I said it to Ray Ryan that was probably one of the top 5 matches I've ever been involved in as a manager in relation to the buzz you get off it after. These girls give absolutely everything. They are just so coachable. The effort they've put in. We've girls travelling from Cork, from Dublin, from Galway, from Tralee, everywhere that come training. They're afraid to miss a session in case they fall behind. And when you've that kind of buy-in from the girls, look, we were probably unlucky not to reach a league final and possibly win it. But on the flip side of it, if we probably had been in a league final before the day we played Wexford, we probably wouldn't have got that performance. And that's our benchmark going forward now. That's the lowest we can go. We have to go higher than that. And to be fair, the last couple of weeks, we gave the girls 2 weeks off to go back to their clubs. They're back with us now for the last week and a half. And the energy that they've brought to training has been huge. We had a meeting with them, told them what was required. They told us what was required as well in relation to what they needed to bring to training. And to be fair, they've done it in the last 2 weeks, and we expect the same any night we're training going forward now.
And Joe, what do you see as the upper limit for this group? Certainly this year, I know it might be hard to say that, but you know, it had been a testing few years, I think it's fair to say, for Limerick Camogie in terms of results anyway. You know, a lot of players coming and going off the panel. There was maybe no continuity. That's maybe the buzzword myself and Matt O'Callaghan have used in this platform. So, like, what do you think is achievable this year? Well, realistically, maybe the All-Ireland is probably out of reach. And I'm not giving you a free pass on that, but I'm just saying that that's probably realistic. But where can this group take you? What have you seen to say that they can go somewhere?
To be honest, Tom, we've spoken into as a group about it, and we have our own targets, but we tend to just concentrate on what's right in front of us. And all we are concentrating at the moment on is the Waterford match. Because Camogie, women's sport in general, it's you can go out one day and you can beat a team by 10 points, and the next day you could go out and be beaten by a team that were beaten by the team you beaten again by 10 points. So it's just so up and down. Form really stands for nothing in it. It's really on the day. It's really how they, I suppose, show up on the day. Conditions have a lot to do with it. There is a huge disparity in physicality between girls as compared to boys. Like, we played Wexford that day. The ground was hard. You know, the ball was moving. The previous 3-4 matches, we were inside and muck and shite. And like, we've really skillful girls. Some of them wouldn't be that big, and they get thrown off a ball by somebody that mightn't be as fit. The one compliment I can give these girls is we're not training them as camogie players. Everything we're doing with them, we're training them as hurlers. Okay? To me, they're female hurlers. Yes, the game is camogie, but at the end of the day, they're female hurlers, and we train them as hurlers. We don't train them as females. We don't train them as anything other than elite athletes. And the sport they play is hurling. So we train them like that. And it's brilliant. We've got an unbelievable bunch. The skill level. And that's why I'd actually urge people to come in. We left 8 years ago. It's 10 years ago since we won the All-Ireland Intermediates. And we left probably 9 years ago this year. We finished up with the girls. In that 9 years, the skill level, the fitness level, the strength, the game awareness that is there is just huge. There's no comparison. The game people say hurling has changed in the last 10 years. Camogie, I think, exponentially has changed twice as much. And it's the same in every county. Like before, and I don't mean this in a bad way, there was times you'd watch a camogie match and it was a hard watch. But nowadays, and to be fair to Camogie Association, they've changed the rules a bit as well, that they're allowing more physicality, and which the girls wanted. And it has made a huge difference in the game. There isn't all the blowing of whistles, and it was a competition before camogie. You could win if you had a really good goalkeeper with a good puck out, and you had a really good free taker. Because there used to be so many frees given, but now the game is opening so much. You see it, scores are getting higher, the skill level is way higher, and the competitiveness and fitness levels is just through the roof at the moment.
Yeah, and to look to Sunday, Waterford, obviously All-Ireland finalists last year, well beaten on the day by Cork, but certainly a county that has really, been consistent at senior level, has really pushed it, and I suppose got their reward in reaching that final. So it's worth saying as well to anyone that maybe mightn't be across the camogie, this isn't linked to the All-Ireland series. It's just a standalone Munster competition. So an opportunity for you to see where the girls are at ahead of the championship. Obviously an opportunity to try and win a game in front of hopefully a big crowd. But where are you coming at this from? Do you think the girls are in good enough form, and are you hopeful that Wexford performance can be backed up, albeit a number of weeks later?
Yeah, look, that's what we're looking for. Listen, it would be a massive scalp to take on Sunday, because to be fair to Waterford, down through the years we never feared Waterford. When I was over the girls, they were intermediate as well. We never feared them. To me, our girls are every bit as good as the Waterford girls. I suppose they're just that bit further down the road than us. And let's not underestimate, getting to an All-Ireland Senior Camogie final is a huge, huge achievement. So that's not done by a flash in the pan of one result or something. That is something you have to come out through group stages, you go through quarterfinals, you go through semi-finals. That's not something that can be done easily. So we will give them the kudos for getting there, but we certainly won't be afraid of them. How the result turns out after that then is basically down to on the day and see how we perform. And
injury-wise, are we expecting a clean bill of health coming into this one, or how are your crew fixed?
No, Sarah Carey's out at the moment with an injury. Mary O'Callaghan is down on the team sheet all right for the weekend, but I don't think she'll make it in time with a hamstring injury. We've Lorraine McCarthy's injured, Emma Kennedy's injured, we've a couple of long-term injuries that we won't have access to the players. But look, we'll still be naming a panel of 26 for Sunday. So it's up to them to do it. The one thing they proved against Wexford was we gave a lot of girls starts against Wexford that hadn't got a start, some that hadn't got a whole pile of game time. And to be fair, I asked them in the dressing room before that. I said, today's the day we see have we got a team or a panel, and I think they proved that we've got a panel. So they're making our job difficult every night. There's girls on that panel that weren't in our thinking at all, probably for a starting position at the start of the year, that are now has secured their jersey for the last couple of matches, and looks like they'll secure them going forward. But the great thing is they know if they don't perform, there is somebody chomping behind them, and I would love to take the jersey back off them. And if you give back a jersey, it's not easy to get it back again. So that's the kind of competition we have in there. We don't need to worry about opposition too much. If we don't get our stuff right, it doesn't matter what the opposition or what quality you're against, you're not going to win. You got to get your performance right, get your head right, get your attitude and your work rate right. And I think we'll be okay. I said it against Wexford before to the girls as well. We have no excuse for being outworked. You cannot legislate for being outworked. There's only one person decides whether you work harder than the person you're on, and that's you. And that's, we can control that. I think the Limerick senior hurlers have shown us and the girls that even when things haven't gone great, if you keep working and you work harder than the opposition, something will turn and come right for you.
Yeah, okay, well, very well said. And we were wishing your side the best of luck on Sunday. Just to remind people again, it's 2 p.m. this Sunday, as you can see there on screen, in the TUS Gaelic Grounds. So get there early. You'll get your parking if you're in that bit earlier, of course, in around the north side of the city, and head down the Ennis Road, get in, support the ladies against Watford, and I'm sure a healthy support could be the difference against one of Ireland's top Camogie sides. And just as well, to give a plug, I think you're giving away a car, Joe, in Limerick Camogie. The draw isn't too far away. I wouldn't mind spinning it myself.
Yeah, look, we'll give a car away to anybody that wants it. It might cost them a few quid, but I wouldn't say we're giving it away free. But look, the draw, it's a huge fundraiser, and for the girls and all the county board, to be fair, to try and fund the thing going forward and do it at the right levels. Fundraising is a huge task, and I think a draw like that is really, really good, because it's not too much. 50 euros is like the old 20 quid. You'll give it for a draw, you have a chance to win a really good prize, either cash or the car, and and it's going to a really, really good cause.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, €50 ticket, 45,000 euro in cash, or a Ford Kuga. So that could be yours in the next couple of weeks. The time is running out on that one, so do support it if you can at all. I
hope our coach John Murphy wins it, because he's driving an old bit of a banger at the moment. So
right.
If anyone wants to play a few tickets and put his name down, it'd be great.
Yeah, be much welcome. Fair enough. Yeah, we'll just pivot now to Sunday. Sunday just gone, obviously, before we look ahead to the senior game in terms of men's hurling. John, looking back on Ennis, I suppose for a couple of minutes anyway. Not Limerick, vintage Limerick, but maybe as Joe touched on there, they kept working it. They kept, I suppose, they kept their wits about them. They were 9 points down. And as we were saying, maybe off air there, yourself and myself were right behind the dugout. I didn't see any panic from them. Yourself and myself might have been panicking as Limerick men, but there was no panic on the line, and the wheels started to turn, and so many players started to come into it, and Limerick turned Clare over, got the 3 goals and got the 3-point win. So a fantastic final quarter from Limerick, and the season is up and running.
Season's up and running, Tom. Yeah, look, Limerick were far from their best. They'll be the first to admit that, but you don't want Limerick at their best in the first round of the Munster Hurling Championship, because if they're at their best, then there's going to be a drop off from there. So great to come out with Ennis with a result. Draw a couple of years ago there. I think I'm right in saying it's 1990 since Limerick last won a championship game in Ennis, and that's even before Joe's time. That shows you how long ago that is. But it's joking aside now, but slagging aside, it's one of the more difficult places to come out of in the country to get a result, and and again, outside of what I think I heard someone say today, there was 11 and a half minutes of from the 52nd, 53rd minute to 64th and 5th when Limerick got the goals. And the game was over. That's what this Limerick team can do to you in the final quarter. Or since Clare went 9 points up, there was 3-6 points. I remember you saying that to me, Tom, in Ennis as well. So look, that kind of spell of hurling, there's no one can deal with that, And Limerick, and I still believe Limerick were far from their very best. Crucial moves all over the field. One of the pivotal ones was bringing Conor Boylan on at half time for me. Just had an exceptional game, or not half time, sorry, early in the second half. But an off-colour Tom Morris, you can bring on a guy like Conor Boylan. In many places criticised at times, but Conor's a guy who'll give you everything when he comes on. Won a few vital frees, carried a bit of ball, led off a bit of ball. Just gave Limerick a foothold when they needed one most in the early stage of that second half. Bringing on Adam English, for William O'Donoghue, you saw the likes of Donegal O'Donnell come on, Aidan O'Connor. It's Limerick's much vaunted bench, but it's not the bench that we're used to seeing coming on. It's maybe young guns coming to the fore a little bit. Donegal, even though he came on, fluffed a couple of balls, could have had more, scored 1-1. You'd be happy with that, Adam had a huge impact in midfield. Aidan O'Connor coming on, boosting his confidence as a young player as well. And Cathal O'Neill, wasn't always on the ball, got through Trojan work. But for me, one of the key cornerstones of Limerick's performance, I haven't heard it mentioned in too many places, was David Reedy. From start to finish in the game, his work rate was through the roof. And no more so than to bring Limerick to within 2 points before that O'Donnell goal, a brilliant score off a very well-worked sideline cut. So, yeah, far from perfect. But as I said, you wouldn't want it perfect this time of the year. And the most important thing is Limerick came out with 2 points.
Yeah, Joe, before I bring you in here, just John mentioned 1990 there, right? And I got a hold of the team thanks to James London, a serious Limerick supporter, James, and he managed to pull out the team from 1990. And there's a hell of a lot of connections. Obviously, Tommy Quaid, Nicky's father, was in goals. You also had Joe O'Connor, who would be Aidan's father. You would also have, and just see the connections there, Gerard Hegarty, of course, Garrod's father, Kieran Derry. Say that again, sorry?
Ben was surely on it.
No, not in the starting, or not in the 18 U's, but you also have Kieran, obviously, Cian and his uncle, Kieran Kerr. That is nice bit of linkage there. I suppose there's been obviously so many connections back to those teams. But we mentioned Quaid, obviously you're Quaid, but Joe, one of the differences for me, if you can break this down in a lot of ways, but one of the differences for me was the goalkeepers. And I'm not trying to promote you in terms of Nicky and all that, but Limerick's goalkeeper made the saves. Limerick scrambled the defence early in the first half when Clare hunted a few goals, and Limerick's goals, maybe the Clare goalkeeper didn't cover himself in a bit of glory. Now maybe that's too simple a way of looking at it, but 3 goals Limerick got. Maybe another day, they mightn't have come their way. But is that too simplistic of you to have it on the game?
No, I don't think it is. I'm presuming every goalie is the same. He'll judge his performance when he goes home. He doesn't need anyone telling him. And I can tell you straight out, if I was ever Quilligan, the third one, there was nothing he could do about it, I suppose, really. The ball that hit the post and came out at least 3 feet outside the square before Aaron put it in. I definitely think the first 2, he definitely has to look in the mirror and say, I was poor on that. You go the other side then, and I don't know, it's nearly an embarrassment to say I'm related to Nicky, for the simple reason is he makes goalkeeping look so easy. I made it look so bloody difficult. But he just makes it look so damn easy. So he does. He's as cool as a breeze in there. But like, if he hadn't made them saves, we were in serious bother. But again, just like goalkeeping, if he made him in the last couple of minutes and we won the match, he was the hero. But them saves are every bit as important in the first 10-15 minutes as they are in the last minute. But I suppose the perception is, oh yeah, sure, we're gone kind of used to him now at this stage.
Yeah,
I was actually surprised to see him diving the last day, because his positioning is so good. He's normally where the ball comes, but it's good to see that's in his locker as well.
Yeah, just to pick up one thing with Nicky, and I can't remember the last time he dropped a long ball, and like the Jeremy Burns Aaron Gillan goal was obviously a long ball into the square that if it had come into the Limerick square, I seem to think that maybe 99 times out of 100, maybe that's too high, but 99 times out of 100, either Dan Marcy or Nicky Quaid will catch that and they'll shepherd themselves out to the side. Maybe I'm wrong to say that, but it seems like Limerick are so comfortable under those dangerous balls, and obviously Clare aren't. But it's as you say, he makes it look so easy. It's not an easy skill, a dropping ball when there's hurleys flying, there's players coming, there's so much going on, and he and indeed Morrissey in front of him make it look so easy at times.
Yeah, I'd be fully confident if that ball came in, Nicky would have caught it. If you watch it, Everquilligan goes down, does a shot of him with his head down, looking at the ground, trying to bat it. You look down at the ground, you're no chance. Worst case scenario, you stand big, you get in the line of the ball, and you let it hit off you. And generally it'll bounce out. But no, he made just poor defending. Plus it was poor goalkeeping. There didn't seem to be much of connect. If they were going to hold on to Galan when that ball came, Ever needed to get out around him and get to it. Or else just leave Galan inside in the square. Why are you arresting a guy inside in the square when there's a ball hit short? Get out and attack it. Get it to ground even and get it away. But this, like, if you're arresting a guy and you're only 2 or 3 yards from your goalkeeper, and I'll give him some bit of credit on that one, is if he had stood up, I think it would have hit him if he was in line with it. But you're giving him no chance to see the ball. If you're wrestling with a guy inside there, he'd be better off to walk away from him and leave Everquilligan come out from behind him and contest it. But this wrestling crack that Clare seem to be huge fans of, I don't think it's helping them, to be honest. Because it's drawing a lot of attention. Like 2 of the full back line and Clare were on yellow cards. And another day, if we were probably on our game, if better ball and we collected more ball and ran at him inside. Like Clancy was very, very lucky to stay on the field. When he dragged down, I can't remember which one of the lads he dragged down for the free. Like that was nearly a black card defence on its own. He was on a yellow. He could have got a red. So, and I wouldn't mind. But that Clare backline are good enough to Hull, lads. But they're just this thing, and it's mainly with Limerick, that they just feel that they've got to go in and just wrestle the living shite out of whoever's in the full forward line and try and think that they're coming out better than them. But they need to probably look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game and say, okay, we held our guys to do it, but there's guys out the field doing damage. Had to get, like, with all the rest that they've done, what did Galan end up with the last day? Like,
was it 1-5 or something, John? I think it was. Yeah, I know a lot of them were frees.
I had them down to 2-5. I thought he got a flick on that one, but look, either way, yeah. Look, completely.
He got 2 goals. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. But like, I'm in full agreement with Joe with that. Clare are an outstanding team in their own right. I don't need to be messing around like that. Just on Everquilligan's point, and I'm saying this to someone else today. I said it last week, Tom. I thought Clare had the right fella in goals. We saw what happened with, and I mentioned it in last week's podcast with Eamon Foodie last year with Tipper and Riot, and he made a couple of poor decisions that cost goals. But I was thinking through this. If you look at the other 5 counties, like outside of Limerick, or 4 counties, 5 counties, including Limerick, but outside of Limerick, the goalkeeping situation isn't steady. You look at Tipperary on Sunday, Rhys Shelley and young lad of the Hogans from Killadangan, like they've both mixed and matched throughout the year. Waterford have done something similar with Billy Nolan and Sean O'Brien. Billy's played more out the field, I know, in this league. Patrick Collins is under severe pressure from Brian Saunderson, the last year's under-20s keeper. And it's another issue again in Clare, and it's no surprise to me, like the last 2 years, and this is a very simplistic way of looking at it, but the 2 top keepers in the country from both restarts and in winning possession and their general player, Owen Murphy and Nicky. Funny enough, the same 2 teams are in the All-Ireland the last 2 years. That's no coincidence. It's obviously it's one part that makes all the parts come together, but if you have a bit of uncertainty in that in between the sticks with your keeper, it causes issues with the full back line, which in turn causes issues with the half back line, and it feeds down the whole rest of the team, Tom. So if that position isn't fully sorted, now I thought Clare, in fairness, I thought Everett had a very good league, he had a very good championship up to or last year, and he'd had a very good 2024 up to on Sunday. I'm the exact same as Joe. I had no hope for Aaron's second goal, as I put it. I thought the same with the schmozzle in front of him did him no favours. But for Donegal O'Donnell's one, as any keeper at any level, I mean this at any level, you'd be expecting to save. Not taken away from Donegal. Donegal's job is to hit the target, hope for a lucky bounce, hope for a lucky spin off the keeper or whatever. But when a guy's leaning back like that, you can't transfer your way quickly enough, and he was caught with a miss hit. And it's a killer, and every goalie's been caught by it, and I can assure you of that. But it's to Limerick's benefit in this case when you have a guy like Nicky between the posts that can pull off them saves. More often than not, he doesn't need to, as Joe said. The positioning is so good, he's already there. But his handling under pressure was the part of the game I hated the most, as a dropping ball like that. Joe, I think you're on record as saying the same thing. Yeah. It's an absolute nightmare in there at any level. You don't want the ball. You want to go wide over your head. You don't want it dropping. And Nicky is just so cool under it. And as well, I will say this. If that was at the other end, as Joe said, there's no way Aaron would have been anywhere near the square. Dan Marcy would have shunted him into the terrace if he had to make sure Nicky had a clear view.
Yeah, he'd have brought him out for a bottle of water. And I think they ran out of water in Ennis, such as the heat on the day. Well, look, we'll bring the conversation on.
Yeah, and it's a good point with the two top teams, with the two top goalies. And just to compare, and this is where I've been me bonnet over Owen Murphy getting the All-Stars all the time for his saves. No, don't get me wrong. He is the best shot stopper I've ever seen. But he turns over more balls from his puckouts than Nicky ever does. He's costing Kilkenny every day he goes out with turnovers, with misplaced puckouts, and the ball being turned.
Or under hit, yeah.
Like, if, as you said, John, if other teams in the country cannot see that you need to, this is probably in the modern game one of the most important positions in the game, and put the work in. I don't know, is the work being put in outside of Limerick and it, but if they're not doing it and they're going with the same, I'm sorry, but I think you get the same result.
Yeah, well, just to not know the exact number, but Cian Lynch only handled the ball in the game, was it 12 or 13 times? Nicky would have pucked the ball out 30 times. It's a very simple stat to show how many times the goalkeeper is involved, and he obviously made a couple of saves on top of that as well. That wouldn't be obviously included in my number there. But yeah, you're right, how important of a position it is. Just to bring it on, lads, I know Joe's be hot-footing it after training now this evening, but just to looking ahead to Sunday at 4 p.m, our old friends, our old neighbours there in Tipperary coming into town. John, Tipperary probably, the narrative will come out after, regardless of the result. It'll either be that Tipperary were fresh and they managed to catch Limerick, or else Limerick had a game under their belt. But what way do you see this one anyway as a contest? Tipperary have been a bit inconsistent in the last few seasons. Drew with Limerick last year, went out at a bit of a whimper then in the quarter final against Galway. So how do you see Tipperary coming into this one in the Gaelic Grounds?
The reality is, Tom, we don't know. We don't know what Tipperary are going to come in. Things have gone, you could look at this two ways. They've gone to ground, nothing's coming out, and they're the biggest of all comeback stories is on its way after that league semi-final where they just capitulated against Clare. I think Liam Cahill would have been relatively happy with the league up to that point, but was he left with more questions than answers after that game, where he would have been, okay, we'll get to the league semi-final. If we lose, okay, we're not too pushed. But to lose in the manner they did to Clare is a worry for them. Look, I think you're going to see a Tipperary team, no matter who he selects, that will be ramped up to the last to come in and face Limerick on Sunday afternoon. There's never been an easy game against Tipp. There's never any easy game in Munster anyway, but Limerick-Tipperary clashes over the years have been some of the greats. And, Tipperary used to always say that back in the day when they were more dominant than Limerick, they always feared Limerick. And I think Limerick, they have the upper hand at the moment, but they'll be very wary of any Tipperary side they go out and play against. I think consistency is the biggest thing for Tipperary, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier with that's consistency on the field and consistency in selection as well. And whether that's there or not for Liam Cahill, I'm sure Liam Cahill knows what his best 15 on paper is, but sure, there's no game won on paper. It's there's so many different things going to win in any game, but with the reality is we just don't know with Tipperary. We really don't coming into Sunday. There hasn't been stuff coming out of their camp, which is probably a positive sign for Tipperary. There's no talk of, well, certainly in the Tipperary lads I know, I haven't heard too much from. Maybe they're just saying that because I'm from Limerick, they're telling me nothing. But Joe might know more about rumours circling around there. I certainly haven't heard anything. You know, again, I'll go back to it. I highlighted a couple of minutes ago, that situation in goals. Liam Cahill knows which goal he wants, but if form doesn't dictate that the guy you want in there or anywhere isn't playing well enough, well, you have to go with a different option. So, and I think they have that issue all over the field. They still haven't sorted out their full back. And if Aaron gets the same type of ball he got in more often than not, if he won't have Conor Cleary hanging out of him, but he'll have someone trying to hang out of him, and Aaron will run rampage. And whether it's Seamus next to him or whether it's Peter Case or whoever's in there alongside Aaron Gillan, I think that's the one. If he's fit, if he's fully fit on Sunday, it'll be Aaron. They'll do serious damage against that type of full back line, even with Cahill Barrett in there. But it's all about, you know, what they can do out the field. And if Limerick deliver that type of ball in, as I said, it could be a very long day for Tipperary. But going back to my original point, Tom, the one thing you'll know from Tipp, they'll come in all guns blazing. It's their opening game. They've had an extra week, which can hinder you or can be a good thing for you. And again, by 6 o'clock on Sunday, we'll certainly know, as you said, whether, you know, Tipp are you know, improving under Liam Cahill or whether they're staying the same.
Yeah, Joe, how do you see it? Obviously, we've seen what Limerick have done, obviously, only last week. So the question about Tipperary, as John puts it, is it's not as straightforward. But how do you see this one coming into Sunday?
Yeah, look, somebody asked me there on Monday for an article who do I think is the top three coming out of Munster. And I said, I'll tell you that when at least all the teams have played. So I said, Tipp haven't even played, so how can you make a prediction and based on that? But like every day Limerick go out, the team that's coming against them now are always bringing their A game. All I'm listening to from a few Tipp lads, you've a few Q tours that are there. Sure, we're only going in for a baiting. Friends of mine from Newport are around. We'll go in, sure, we'll watch the Camogie as well. Sure, that might be a better game. This kind of rubbish that's coming out of him. Tipp, as John said, Tipp never fear Limerick. They love playing Limerick. And they have the record of being the team to stop the two attempts at the 5 in a row. And if there's anything better than an ultimate optimist, it's a Tipp man believing that they, for the third time, they will stop the 5 in a row. So I would be very, very wary of them. The only thing is, I think that might frighten Tipp a small little bit is with 15 minutes to go, if there isn't a whole pile in the game, that they'll get a flashback to, oh my God, this team are going to go up another level now and try and close this game out. And will they be able to physically and mentally match that? I saw an article there today. TJ Ryan, not the TJ Ryan from Limerick, but the selector with Tipp, is kind of half claiming he's the Limerick system figured out. The best of luck to him on that one, because bigger and better and bolder than him have tried it so far. I don't think you can try and figure out Limerick system. I'm forever saying it. They do the basics of the game quicker than everyone else. They do it better than anyone else, and they work harder than anyone else. Now, if you want to beat Limerick, you've got to get them three things right. Not systems, not where a fella goes, not what runs are made. So I think if Tipp are to beat us on Sunday, they'll have to be fitter than us, they'll have to be stronger than us, and they'll have to do the basics of the game better than us, right? And that's fine saying that. It's not as simplistic as that, because I genuinely think the boost in confidence that the last 15 minutes has given Limerick players going into next week is huge. Limerick were very, very flat and very lucky to get out of Munster last year. They just couldn't get up for it. I asked the question last year, I said, have they trained through Munster? It looked like they trained through it. And if they did, it was a ballsy move, but I was assured they didn't. But they just were flat. They couldn't get up. And the whole thing just changed the day they beat Cork, when they thought they'd finished in third place, when they found out they were in the Munster final. I think that trigger moment might have been on between 53 and 70 minutes last Sunday, that they won't be waiting for the last day and a moment like that to come through. It was edge of the seat pants last year. I remember watching it back in Ballybunion, the Cork match, but I'd also the Tipperary match on What's the Score. So I was watching both, and at one stage we were up 2 points, and a draw would have done us the way it went, and I think it would have put Cork in. But I said, at least if we were up a point, Cork could go for a point, and a draw would be the worst result we'd get, and we'd get through. If it was 2 points and Cork were down and got a goal and we were beaten, we were out. That's the margins that was there last year. I don't think mentally that John Kiely is going to allow the players, or the players themselves will allow themselves to get caught in that position where it'll come down to the last day. They go out, they do the job on Sunday. They won foot not only in the All-Ireland series but in the Munster final as well. So I think Limerick will definitely be all guns blazing. What Tipp brings, come here, I might as well go out and put my hand up in the air and see if I can catch a gust of wind. You have no idea what's coming from Tipp. But I think 20 minutes in, we'll have a fair idea of the outcome of that match, either way.
Yeah, and Joe, just before we let you on your way, do you see any changes to the Limerick 15? Obviously, Peter Casey is now available. Donegal O'Donnell made a bit of an impact. Conor Boylan and even Adam English, stepped up. So it's maybe too simplistic to say that some of those could be closer to start, But do you foresee any changes this weekend?
I suppose the main one would probably be Casey for Flanagan, but to be fair to John and the lads, they stick with lads. They don't just discard them. Casey may come on for him, but he might just go and give Seamus another chance. But again, the game Sunday is going to be so different. The full forward line, the way they're manhandled and marked and things, is going to be so different. They possibly might get a clatter or two more, but it certainly won't develop into the WWE crap that we see every time we play Clare. If you're good enough, go out and hold your man. And that's the way Tipper did. Tipper hurlers, Tipper ballers. Okay, they'll be physical, and they gave some of the lads a fair battering around the place last year. And I'd be disappointed if they didn't. But it'll be a titanic battle. But I think John might just start with the same starting 15 again.
Okay, well, maybe with the exception of maybe Mike Casey with that hamstring injury, but Sean Finn more or less played the whole game the last day. So, Joe, thanks very much. You've been very good with your time. We wish you the best on Sunday against Waterford, and you never know, we might see you knocking around the Gaelic Grounds, enjoying the Limerick and Tipperary game afterwards.
By God, you will.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, lads.
Now, John, I suppose the same question to you. We're likely maybe to see 13, 14 of the same players as the last day. Do you see John Kiely maybe trying to shuffle the pack, or will it be much of the same come Sunday afternoon?
No, I think Joe hit the nail on the head. He's such loyalty to all these players, Tom, and deserved loyalty as well over the years with what he's got from them. You couldn't argue if John went out with 14 of the same 15, obviously, as you said, with Sean Finn coming in for Mike Casey, as we'd expect, given there's no injuries, obviously, in coming from that Clare game that we didn't know about at the end of it. But yeah, I think obviously Peter Casey, you mentioned, is the big one. Adam English certainly made a big case to start. Don't see that happening though. I think at the moment there's an impact there. Conor Boylan put his hand up, and maybe Conor starts in place of Tom Morrissey. You're looking at Tom Morrissey, maybe Seamus Flanagan in the forward line, the two who, given the performance the last day. But look, Tom Morrissey's consistency over a long period of time. One bad game isn't going to see Tom Morrissey drop from the Limerick team, and the same for Seamus Flanagan. So you could see Peter Casey start. Maybe Cathal O'Neill drops out, which would be very harsh on Cathal, because as I said earlier, I think he had a fine game. A lot of unseen work, maybe wasn't on the ball as much as he would have liked, but put in some effort and some shift. And in the first half was one of the few outlets that was working at times. David Reedy will certainly start again for me. the backs outside of that Sean Finn, I think like Kyle will be better after another game. Dan Morrissey will be better after another game. Declan Hannon the same. Barry Nash will probably had a more quiet game, certainly from an attacking point of view than Limerick would have liked last week. He'd like to be on plenty more ball, you would imagine, this coming Sunday. But yeah, I think I only see Casey maybe the one to fit in somewhere, but we wouldn't be in the slightest bit surprised to see no other changes.
Yeah, just on the Boylan one, I suppose I noticed it myself down the years. Maybe he could find himself in the role of being substitute, and look, there's no disgrace in that. But Pat Ryan was someone who I think maybe played 16, 17 championship games without ever starting, never looked like starting, but yet was trusted for whether it be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it was. And maybe Conor Boylan will find himself in that role, and maybe he's happy with that, and they're looking for an impact.
Conor started, he got a goal 2 years ago against Tipp at a very vital time, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if he started that game, but look,
no, he only came on.
He only came on in that, but has started games, and has shown at the highest of high levels. Came on the All Ireland last year as well, and we've obviously seen him in the Pearshig over the years, and he's a 7 out of 10 every game. Tom, he always delivers for club. Invariably, he does it for county when he's called upon as well. But again, just shows to the strength of this Limerick panel at the moment. Again, as it has been for the last number of years. When needed, someone always puts their hand up, and I'm sure Sunday will be the same if Limerick are to come out victorious in that game. It may not be Garrod Hegarty like it was last week, or Donegal O'Dollig. Could be someone else that's putting their hand up.
Yeah. And I suppose final question on it. Liam Call's teams, when he was underage teams, his team liked to score goals. I think maybe that might be the best way to beat Limerick. Maybe Limerick in the last couple of years have maybe outgoaled their opposition more often than we probably appreciate. But maybe the best way to beat Limerick might be to try and score 3, 4, or 5 goals. As easy as that is not. Do you feel that maybe they'll be targeting, maybe getting Jake Morris into this one early? Obviously, they have Garrod O'Connor as an option. Obviously, Jason Ford is, their sharpshooter. So, in fairness to Tipp, they have good forwards. Do you think they're going to target goals on Sunday, or is it a case for them to hang in the game and try and just topple Limerick late on?
Yeah, it's a valid point, the goals one, Tom. You don't read too much into league games, and Limerick, a couple of sloppy mistakes in that game and down in Cork, and I know you were at it, but in very, very difficult conditions too. But yeah, I think Tipp teams, when they're at their very best, go for goals. We only have to look back to Ennis last year. They scored 5 in their opening game in the Munster Championship. If they're flying, Tipp score goals. They've plenty of threats. Tipp have always had good forwards. I don't know if they've replaced Jamie Callanan yet, really. I noticed he was around last year, but it wasn't the same Jamie Callanan. His days were pretty much up at that stage. But there is an area there for the likes of Garrod O'Connor, who we've seen play around the centre forward area with UL, and he's played mostly for Tipp in the half forward line. But with guys like Jake Morris. Mark Keogh as well has always had a decent record against Limerick. He's always good for a goal against Limerick. But you look back to last year's game, Tom, I think I'm right in saying it was 25 points apiece in that one, and no goals in that game. I'm open to correction on that, but
No goals,
yeah, these games take on a life of their own. The one thing is, I think to beat Limerick, you need to score more than 2 goals. And I think that this Limerick team, certainly you need to score 3+ goals, and you might get 2 in a championship game. You'll do very well to get more than that, and that's why invariably Limerick have come out the right side of so many games over this period. We saw Nicky make those couple of vital saves last week, and at vital times as well in that first half, and obviously doesn't get the glory. Those saves don't get the glory till they happen at the end of the game, but they're just as important, as we said earlier. I don't see, and again, we'll find out next week, won't we, when we're talking. Do I see any team scoring 2 or 3 goals past Limerick? Maybe 2. More than that, invariably no. And I think Tipp might need more than 2 goals to beat Limerick this weekend. They have firepower, no question. But again, we don't know what's coming from Tipp. And, do Tipp know what's coming from Tipp at this stage? I think there may be a bit of Hail Mary stuff going on in there, So yeah, I think they could try and target that. But if you're trying to target Dan Morrissey in the air, or on the ground. Shane O'Donnell won a couple of balls off him last week, mainly to do with some excellent ball delivery into Shane O'Donnell, more so than Dan, because Dan, when the ball went high, Dan won it. When the ball went low, Dan made sure the other guy didn't win it. More often than not, Sean Finn will be all the better for the game last week. Like 6 minutes. Outside of the 6 minutes he didn't play at the start of it, he'll be better for that performance. And for me, Sean was actually getting better as that game went on. Obviously tiring towards the very, very end, but it was no surprise in the last quarter when Clare, or the last few minutes when Clare were really starting to try and pile the pressure on, that Sean Finn won a couple of balls, 50-50 duels, and then, you know, that's no surprise for any of us that have watched Sean Finn over the years to see him coming out with possession like that. So yeah, Tipp may try and target goals, Tom, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll get them. They'll try. I think Liam Sheedy did it. We all know the Munster final from a few years ago now, that they did go very, very long over the Limerick half back line and try and circumvent Limerick sweeper. Remember Declan Hannon dropping deep. You wouldn't even call it a sweeper, but it worked then. It worked for the first half, and Limerick came out and blitzed them in the second half. So, you know, I think, but going back to what Joe was saying as well, Tipp will come with fire and brimstone to the two Gaelic Grounds. I'd be very, very surprised if they didn't. A bit like Waterford last year, you know, they put everything and the kitchen sink at Limerick in the first round of Munster last year, and they didn't really recover after that until they beat Tipperary in the last round. So, you know, every team that comes up against Limerick, and this was proved last year, they struggled the game after. It'd be interesting to see what Clare do now against Cork on Sunday. I know we're not focusing on that, but Tipp are coming into this fresh, and maybe that's the one advantage to have over Limerick.
Yeah, well, we will give it a brief touch. The other game in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship this weekend, obviously, you just mentioned it there, Clare and Cork in the park in Super Value Park, Creve, of course, to give it its full title. Difficult to know how this one is going to go, because both teams coming in with an L beside their name, but it's a huge game, John, really, isn't it? It's going to be very difficult for a team to get through with 4 points. So the loser here is literally has absolutely nothing left. It's probably out of their own hands to get through. So it's a massive game for both counties.
Season defining, Tom, is how I put it. Neither side would have expected. Clare certainly thought they were going to beat Limerick. Cork certainly thought they were going to beat Waterford last week, and both came out with egg in their face and are facing into a situation now where I don't think either of them felt they would be and didn't think they would be. So it's as big as it gets at the opposite end of it, because you lose this game and you're pretty much done. And you're done before May, which is, you know, a very, very tough pill to swallow if that's the case. Both sides, you know, have their merits. You know, Waterford, you know, beat Cork and were full value for that victory by all accounts. And, you know, Cork, we're saying it so long. When is this underage dominance? Not dominance. They had a 20s level, but they've won a few All-Ireland 20s since COVID area and since COVID as well. So in the last few years, so where is this huge group of young talent going to come through for Cork, if it ever is going to? And that's the big crux that Pat Ryan, Cork manager, has at the moment is it's that buzzword again. It's that consistency. If they are a little bit off, Cork can look very bad. Now, they weren't that way against Waterford. Waterford had an exceptional start to the game and followed through the whole way. But Cork just doesn't seem to click for them, no matter who's on the field and who's managing the last 5 years at senior level. It just isn't happening for them. On the other hand, how mentally scarred are Clare from what happened in Ennis last week? You know, they recovered brilliantly after being beaten by Tipperary at home in the first round last year. Is a defeat to Limerick, and with all the physicality that entails, is that going to hamper them on Sunday? Time will tell. You know, that result in Ennis for Clare can work two ways. It can be a galvanising effect that for 53 minutes they were the better side, but just didn't close it out. Or is it a more worrying kind of thing where that collapse has shown up a few things that maybe Brian Lohan and his backroom team didn't know were there, and maybe in a week is that enough to fix that kind of a systemic problem? It certainly isn't. If that's what it is, again, we'll know Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, what exactly that loss has done to Clare. Or I just, you know, it's an impossible one to call, Tom, because both sides are coming in with such negativity, and how quickly can you turn that negativity from everything being so positive in the lead up to the first game to negativity after 70 odd minutes of hurling. It's a kind of one that messes with your mind a bit, if you know what I mean. You know, it's very
John, call
difficult.
it. Get off the fence and call it. Who do you think will have
Oh,
the point?
I don't look like there's this belief in Munster Championship, whatever about Leinster and Munster, that home advantage is great. But I seem to remember last year, and I don't have the stats in front of me, the amount of away wins that were there. Certainly in the first round, Limerick beating Waterford away from home, technically in Thurles, as Walsh Park was being redeveloped, and the same happened in Ennis with Tipp and Clare. But I don't
Clare
know,
beat
like
Limerick,
and Clare bounced back, you know, and I think it's so hard to call, and it's who recovers mentally, Tom, in that quick space of time. My own belief, and I'm not sitting on the fence as you say, but there's just so many different ways to look at. My own belief is Clare further down the road. They have that in the tank. They've been very, very close in Munster finals against Limerick, and obviously in All-Ireland semi-finals against Kilkenny, and they have come out with that silverware. And one poor 20-minute spell shouldn't derail them from their mental stability, the way that loss to Cork that loss for Cork against Waterford may affect them. So I'm just going to go for Clare to shade it.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think even the manner, I get your point about maybe a collapse like Clare had, but there's so many question marks with Cork. Even the general public are questioning the management. Why are they playing the older players? You know, and that has to seep in at some point. Whereas Clare, in fairness to them, rightly or wrongly, have had a serious belief over the last few years that they are one of the best, and it's because they are. But I think there's probably a bit more robustness in them. The fact that Tony Kelly played last week, I think we might see him a bit more. Maybe he'll get a half today, this week, or maybe he'll go in from the start. And you know, he's their talisman. It'd be a bit like if Cian Lynch is coming back for Limerick, or someone like that who's now for a while, or Declan Hannon. You know, he can have that galvanising effect, and I think they'll have taken a lot of positives. Even though I think Brian Lohan said there was no positives to lose to Limerick, but I think in the call out today, there's probably enough there. Go back a couple of minutes, John. I'm going to pick you up on one point, and not against you, but this narrative that is out there about Cork winning underage titles, and they obviously have won them. There's no doubting that. I think is it three of the last four under 20 All Irelands, but the first two of them were in the COVID kind of formats where they were in a Munster semi-final, a Munster final, and then an All Ireland. I think they won 2 Munsters and 2 All Irelands in the space of 5 games, which one of them was delayed. So they won 5 games in I think like 10 weeks or 12 weeks. I'm not sure exactly now, but like it could be a bit overblown sometimes, the underage side of things. Like a team won this, won that. Like you look at Cian Lynch's age group at minor level, I would say I think they win the 21s for a finish, but they didn't win much at minor level. They were really, really close. But look at what Limerick have got out of them. Barry Nash, I don't care. Mike Casey's a bit older. Peter
Connor
Casey,
Boylan.
even Galan wasn't prominent at minor, but by the time 21s came around, he was. Yeah, Connor Boylan. There's so many, even like the likes of Robbie Hanley and stuff. These guys that maybe just didn't quite have the impact at senior level that they might have. Pat Ryan, these guys. But like it's again going back to that development piece. Are they making them ready for senior hurling, or are they able to win an underage game? Like they beat Offaly in last year's 20s final. Offaly were basically playing their under 18 team, if you want to look at it like that. Completely physical mismatch in a lot of positions.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, Tom. And you know, we've certainly seen over the last 10 years, since 2013, when a couple of years into the academy lifting treaty document, we saw very quickly that there was from a trophy point of view, there was success. You know, the minors had a couple of things, and obviously we won 2 21s in 2015 and 17. But you know, them titles mean nothing, Tom. Absolutely nothing if it doesn't transfer to senior. If the turnover of player is as high as it is in some counties. In Limerick, like you could name the starting 15 in that senior team pretty easily since 2018. There has been so much consistency with pockets of players coming through, and we're seeing it now. As I said earlier, the youngest of the younger players that are just out of 20s, 2 years, maybe in some cases 1 year. And the likes of Darragh Langan involved in the squad, Ronan Lyons, Fergal O'Connor on the bench, Aidan O'Connor, Colin Coughlin, all that group, they're senior hurlers now. Yeah, Donegal O'Donnell as well, like, and they've all come through and are part of the senior panel, you know, of Munster winning teams in Limerick's case at under 20s level. But none of that matters, Tom. All Ireland's at underage don't matter unless it transfers. And Limerick, yeah, they didn't win a huge amount at that from that minor team of Keane Lynch's and Barry Nash's side, but what they did was they made it count at the highest level, and that's what Cork haven't been able to do, Tipp haven't been able to do from their 20s success under Liam Cahill. You know, there's other counties there that it just hasn't happened. Kilkenny have won 20s in recent years. They hasn't transferred. They're 10 years without an All-Ireland senior level. Where Limerick now are on the hunt for title number 6. Like, so, you know, it is a point, but that where I'm coming from when I'm saying that about Cork, this was their great white hope, was these lads coming through to win these titles. That was Cork's historic thing. If we win at minor and under 21s, we'll invariably push that forward into senior. That hasn't happened for Cork. And your point of saying, are they ready? Are they creating hurlers ready for senior, or are they trying to win titles? They're two very different outlooks. We can safely say the Limerick Academy is all about preparing players for senior hurling and getting them to that level, as many as you can, and as many as possible up to that level. Is that the same for other counties? Certainly doesn't appear so to us, given that these players don't come through. Limerick have been very lucky in having a whole group of them come through pretty much together, but that's due to the hard work of the Underage Academy coaches and the clubs who rode in behind the Limerick Hurling Academy from its inception. And we've, my God, have we borne some fruits since then. But yeah, I think you're bang on the money with that. Like, are other counties preparing players for senior hurling in the same way? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see what comes of it with Cork. If they're beating the weekend, I tell you, the knives could very well be sharpened for Pat Ryan. And look, it's not an enviable position for him, but himself or Brian Lohan, I'm sure, coming away from that one on Sunday, one of them at least will be under a serious pressure. Now, we're mentioning 20s a lot there, and the Limerick under 20s are back in action, I should say, this coming Friday. That's the 26th of April, and they're on the road to Cork, the All Ireland under 20 champions. Limerick, unfortunately, haven't been able to pick up wins today, but they've named their team for. There's a couple of changes in amongst it. One that jumps off for straight away is Dave Fitzgerald has gone in at corner back. And also a couple of switches amongst the substitutes. John, we were at the game in McNeville Park against Tipperary. Look, this group, a lot of them are probably still eligible next year, even some of them the year after. We're not giving them a free pass, or indeed Evan Loftus for that matter. But I suppose we'd be hoping now that maybe they can pick up one result in the last two, or if not two results. You look, their championship is hanging by a thread. But hopefully some of the green shoots we saw in the first two games can be multiplied around the place, and they can put it up to Cork.
Yeah, you'd be hopeful, Tom. You know, there were periods of the Tipperary game, certainly in the first half that we were at McNeville, where you thought maybe they'd learn from the defeat to Clare the week before. Just didn't happen. In fairness to Tipp, they really put on a brilliant show for about 40 minutes of hurling. It was really impressive from them. But look, it is a young Limerick under 20s side. You've mentioned that there's several players in that team that are eligible for next year and the year after, and again the year after that as well. Like, so, you know, you've the likes of Robert O'Farrell there, and Hugh Flanagan, the half forward lineman minors last year. Sean Casey also played Harty Cup with John the Baptist Hospital. You've seen David Fitzgerald, as you mentioned, in cornerback as well. You know, it's Matthew Fitzgerald as well, a very young and up and coming player, and something similar on the bench as well, with a number of those players. Yeah, it hasn't been the easiest of years for this group, and Evan Loftus' side, losing the two games to Clare and Tipperary to date. They are going into a fairly tough one against a fairly quality Cork side from what I've seen of them this year so far. So it's not going to get any easier. You'd be hopeful that they can pull off a good performance against Cork, maybe nick something from it, and then sets themselves up for the Waterford game and try and finish on a positive with that one as well. But it's been difficult. There's no point saying it hasn't been. I think the age profile of the squad, you've guys on the one end of it, like Shane O'Brien and Fintan Fitzgerald, that are that maybe this is it for them at 20s level, and a good few younger lads around them, as I've mentioned, the likes of Robert O'Farrell, Sean Casey, and you Flanagan as well, as you mentioned on the bench. There's been a bit of chopping and changing too. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult one, Tom. You don't get anything easy down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at any age. The minors saw that a few weeks back as well, the under-17 side. I know we'll be talking about in a minute as well, but it's going to be a tough one down in Cork as well for this team. That they'll be up against it, Tom. But hopefully, as I said, they can pull a result out from somewhere.
Yeah, so that's Friday evening, and as John says, they're finishing off the campaign with the round 4 clash on home soil against Waterford the following week, I believe it is. Just to mention the minors as well, they were in action in their second round. They went to Páirc Uí Chaoimh on the opening round, were beaten by 6 points by Cork, and I think it was the same margin, 15 points to 9 indeed, against Clare in 6 Mile Bridge. I was actually at this one, Jan, and I was struggling to remember a time that a Limerick hurling side of any age failed to score from play, but that was what happened. Very disappointing evening for Shane Dowling and co. Look, again, development, but there probably wasn't too many, bright sparks in this one. There were maybe the fact they were level late on showed that their intensity in the tackle, their working rate was quite good, but really shot shy and really struggling to find the posts. And look, I suppose that can at that age it can really hurt players in the future. But hopefully, they can bounce back this week. Sorry, not this week. They're playing next week on the 2nd of May at home to Waterford. Hopefully, they'll have bounce back ability, and they're finishing their group with 2 home games.
Yeah, that's the hope, Tom, for this team. It isn't easy going away in their first 2 games, especially with that performance down in Cork. I know they weren't happy with it from here, reading everything I read after the game and hearing Shane Dowling talk. To not score from play, it's a bit of a killer as well. It's 9 points isn't going to be a good return on any day, and it wasn't, the scoring levels weren't great against Cork either, but they've had a couple of weeks to work on it. It's a week now. We're a week after that game. They have another week before that game next week. So hopefully they've taken a few lessons, from harsh as they may be, from those 2 performances and defeats today. But Tom, as you mentioned, and this isn't us saying this because Limerick have lost both games, it's all about development for these 70s and 20s, and the difference from the old minor team, from lads being at the age group, like some of these guys are 15, 16 playing under 17s now, and they may be coming up against the guys that are on the actual age of 17 in cases, and physically they're not as developed at times. And I'm not saying that as an excuse, it's just reality at times, but certainly from a hurling point of view, Limerick will want to have improved from their first 2 performances by the time they play Waterford this time next week.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can find something in the last 2 games. And also, I suppose that game against Clare, overshadowed by the injury to Mark O'Brien. Anyone familiar with Article Reach this year would have known him, the Clare captain indeed at minor level, but gone off with a serious looking injury, and hopefully.
Yeah, I saw him actually, Tom. I saw him when as I was heading into Keogh Park Sunday. Mark was in front of me with his dad. He was on crutches and obviously impinged on chatting to them, but he looked fairly downtrodden now, the poor lad. And we'd like to send a joke in the side with rivalries and stuff. You never want to see any young player get injured, but when you've made perhaps what could be a generational talent in the talent Mark O'Brien has, anyone that's ever seen him play for Ardscoil or for his club, Cratlow, I think he's with Clare, and obviously for the Clare underage teams in recent years, he's a breath of fresh air as a hurler, and incredible talent, and we wish him all the best in his recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that brings us to the end of the hurling chat. Just we're a little bit shy on football this week, and that's not by our own admission. That's just the way it's fallen. Just to mention that the Tailteann Cup draw will take place next Tuesday. So by the time we're back with the next episode, we shall know. Limerick are going in as 3rd seeds. They were actually 1st seeds last year, but that's because it's done by league position. So Limerick will, because they're gone down to Division 3 effectively, will find themselves in Pot 3. The first 4, second 4, Limerick are in the third 4. So we'll see what that one throws up. It's going to be the same format as last year. A group of 4, 1 at home, 1 away, and 1 neutral to finish it off. So hopefully a favourable draw for Jimmy Lee and co. We'll bring you that next week, and we'll try and dissect it as we have it. Just as well to give a mention to the ladies football, they are in action against the Kerry development side this Saturday, 1 p.m. throw-in in Father Casey's ground in Abbeyfield. They're playing, as I said, the Kerry development side in this Munster B football championship. So a chance for Mike Quilligan and Sean Kiley, the joint managers, to run the rule over a number of panelists. We mentioned it, John. It was a nice catapult that Limerick got out of this competition last year towards the All Ireland Junior Series. So they'll be hoping for similar again, and maybe it could be a chance to unearth a player or two that might be maybe a little bit more prominent in the championship when it comes around.
Oh, absolutely, Tom. Yeah, it was. It was a big lift for them after what was a relatively disappointing league semi-final exit to Fermanagh last year. And, you know, Graham Shine really used the competition well. They were in Clare very close in it. I seem to remember a Clare side that have gone on to bigger and better things since. And then Limerick obviously reaching the All-Ireland final, junior final in Croke Park last year. You'd hope, I mean, I know Sean and Mike Quilligan, Sean Kiley and Mike Quilligan used a lot of players in the league. And, you know, I'm sure they're since that league defeat a couple of weeks ago, the girls had a bit of a break, and, you know, before they went back to training for this competition. But you would be hopeful that maybe a couple of players, maybe, you know, added to the squad, and just to have a look at it in this competition alone, see if they can bring anything ahead of the All Ireland series that they'll face into the junior championship. But yeah, it was the springboard last year, and hopefully it can provide a similar stimulus this time around.
Yeah, so 1 p.m. on Saturday in Father Casey's, Limerick versus what is a Kerry development side. And hopefully it'll be the start of a successful championship campaign for the side. John, I think that's it all covered this week. If we've missed anything out there, don't be afraid to tell us in the comments in the nicest way possible. But we hope to see you all in the Gaelic Grounds for the 2 p.m. start for the Camogie, followed by the 4 p.m. start for the hurlers. And hopefully it'll be 2 Limerick wins this weekend. But wherever you're tuning in from, stay safe, stay well, and we'll chat to you very soon.